for credentialing. Will the recording secretary please call the roll?
Danette Brown.
Here.
Catherine Williams Brown.
Here.
Jose Cardenas.
Present.
Juan Cruz.
Here.
Christopher Davis.
Present.
Michael Del Torre.
Present.
Marisol Del Torre Escobedo. Anna Marie Francois. Makita Gwynno Shire.
Present.
Megan Gross.
Present.
Johanna Howard.
Present.
Susan Aradia.
Present.
Bonnie Clark.
Present.
Ira Litt.
Present.
Monica Martinez.
Present.
Shireen Parbury.
Present.
David Simmons. Tony Thurman. Kimberly Weiss Smith.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Commissioner Litt, will you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Is that a surprise?
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I would like to remind everyone about the meeting procedures before we get to today's agenda. The meeting is being conducted at the Commission office and via teleconference. We have commissioners participating from the Commission building and also via Zoom. The public has the option to attend the general session of the meeting of the Commission office or to participate remotely through Zoom webcast or U.S. toll-free phone number. For those participating from the Commission office, the microphones must be turned on before you start to speak by pushing the button and then turned off once you are finished. You will know the microphone is on when the indicator light shows green. The microphones for individuals who are attending via teleconference have been muted to eliminate any background noise that may hinder others from hearing what is being said. Commissioners and presenters can unmute yourself, but please mute your microphone after you are done speaking. Commissioners attending the meeting via Zoom that would like to speak, please use the raise hand function in Zoom. Because this is a hybrid meeting, we will need to conduct each vote by roll call. We would like to ask the members of the public who attend the meeting via Zoom and would like to make public comment to check their Zoom identification. Your Zoom identification is the name used when logging into the meeting. It is important that the Zoom identification is accurate so we can call on you appropriately during public comment. Next, we will cover the public comment procedures. The committee chair will announce when the public comment period is open during the presentation of the agenda item and ask for anyone who wishes to comment to notify the meeting moderator. Individuals who attend the meeting at the Commission office will need to submit a request to address the Commission card to the meeting moderator. The meeting moderator will notify the individual when it is their turn to speak. At that time, the individual will be able to approach the microphone and share their comment. Individuals who join the meeting via the Zoom webcast will need to click on the raise hand icon to inform the meeting moderator that they would like to speak on the item. The moderator will notify the individual when it is their turn to speak by calling their Zoom ID. At that time, the individual will be prompted to unmute their microphone and will be able to share their comment. The Zoom ID name used by the member of the public to join the Zoom meeting will be displayed to the public when the individual provides public comment. Individuals who join the meeting through the U.S. toll-free number will need to press *9 on their phone to inform the meeting moderator that they would like to speak on the item. The moderator will notify the individual it is their turn to speak by calling their phone number and will allow them to unmute their telephone. At that time, the individual will be prompted to press *6 and will be able to share their comment. Please note only a partial phone number will be displayed to the public when the individual provides public comment. Each of our committee chairs will have the discretion to set a time limit on comments depending on the volume of speakers seeking to speak on a particular item. We ask that you keep your remarks brief and focused on the particular item you are speaking to. Please note this meeting is being recorded. After the meeting, the archived audio and video will be available via the Commission's website. Okay, Agenda Item 1A. Agenda Item 1A is the approval of April 2023 minutes. We will now open for public comment. Do we need to approve the minutes first?
We need
No.
to actually open the public comment first.
Okay, thank you. We will now open for public comment. Recording Secretary, are there any public comments?
Comments.
Okay, thank you. The public comment period for this item is now closed. We will need to make 3 separate motions to approve the ad hoc committee, executive committee, and regular session minutes. I would like to remind everyone that only those who served on each committee can make and second the motion to approve the committee minutes. First, do I have a motion from a member of the ad hoc committee to approve the April 2023 ad hoc committee minutes? As a reminder, the ad hoc committee members are Christopher Davis, Monica Martinez, and Shireen Pavri.
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Pavri. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Davis. Any discussion? Will the recording secretary call for the vote, please?
Christopher Davis,
Aye.
Monica Martinez,
Aye.
Shireen Pavri.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Next, do I have a motion from a member of the Executive Committee to approve the April 2023 Executive Committee minutes? As a reminder, the Executive Committee members are myself, Marisol de la Torre Escoveda, Jose Cardenas, Megan Gross, Johanna Hartwig, Monica Martinez, and David Simmons. Yes.
I'll make a
Commissioner.
motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Gross. Do I have a second? Yes.
I second.
Thank you, Commissioner Cardenas. Any discussion? Will the recording secretary please call for the vote?
Makita Gwinnett-Shire,
Yes.
Jose Cardenas,
Aye.
Megan Gross,
Aye.
Johanna Hartwig,
Aye.
Monica Martinez,
Aye.
David Simmons. Motion carries.
Thank you. Finally, do I have a motion to approve the April 2023 regular session minutes?
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Davis. Is there a second? Thank you, Commissioner Hartwig. Any discussion? Will the recording secretary please call for the vote?
Danette Brown,
Aye.
Jose Cardenas,
Aye.
Juan Cruz,
Aye.
Christopher Davis,
Aye.
Michael De La Torre,
Aye.
Makita Gwinnett-Shire,
Aye.
Megan Gross,
Aye.
Johanna Hartwig,
Aye.
Susan Aradia,
Aye.
Bonnie Clark,
Aye.
Ira Lit,
Aye.
Monica Martinez,
Aye.
David Simmons. Motion carries.
Thank you. The next item is 1B, approval of the June 2023 agenda. As you can see, we have agenda inserts for items 1C, 4A, and 5A. I'd like to make sure we start the Educated Preparation Committee by 10:15 a.m. this morning. So commissioners, please keep that in mind during your reports. We will now open for public comment. Recording secretary, are there any public comments?
We do not have public comments on this item.
Thank you. The public comment period for this item is now closed. Do I have a motion to approve the June 2023 agenda?
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Davis. Is there a second? Thank you, Commissioner Brown. Any discussion? Good morning. Okay, will the recording secretary please call for the vote?
Danette Brown,
Aye.
Jose Cardenas,
Aye.
Juan Cruz,
Aye.
Christopher Davis,
Aye.
Michael De La Torre,
Aye.
Makita Shire,
Aye.
Megan Gross,
Aye.
Johanna Howitt,
Aye.
Susan Aradia,
Aye.
Bonnie Clark,
Aye.
Ira Litt,
Aye.
Monica Martinez,
Aye.
David Simmons.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Agenda item 1C is approval of the June 2023 consent calendar. We will now open for public comment. Are there any public comments?
We do not have public comments on this item.
Thank you. The public comment period for this item is now closed. Do commissioners have any items they would like to consider in closed session? Yes, Commissioner De La Torre.
I need to recuse myself from consent calendar items 13, 14, 23, 33, 37, 40, 58, 89, 100, and 101.
Thank you. Any other commissioners? Yes, Commissioner Klatt.
I would like to pull item number 86, Skinner, from the consent calendar.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Litt.
I'd like to request that we pull item 71, Oler.
Thank you. Commissioner Cardenas.
I'd like to recuse myself from item 64 and 66. And I'd like to pull item number 43.
Thank you. Commissioner Cruz.
Yes, I'd like to pull item number 19, Fidelio.
Thank you. Any other commissioners? Yes, Commissioner Hartwig.
Would you mind repeating the name for number 71 and number 43?
I don't have that in front of me.
71 is Oler,
Oler.
Oehler.
Thanks.
And 43 is hair.
Thank you.
Any other commissioners? Okay, do I have a motion to approve all remaining items on the consent calendar?
So moved.
Commissioner Davis, is there a second? Commissioner Cardenas. Will the recording secretary please call for the vote?
Danette Brown,
Aye.
Jose Cardenas,
Aye.
Juan Cruz,
Aye.
Christopher Davis,
Aye.
Michael De La Torre,
Aye.
Makita Shire,
Aye.
Megan Gross,
Aye.
Johanna Howitt,
Aye.
Susan Aradia,
Aye.
Bonnie Clark,
Aye.
Ira Litt,
Aye.
Monica Martinez,
Aye.
David Simmons.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Good morning again, commissioners. As many of you know, Dr. Mary Vixie Sandy is on a short leave to support her husband as he recovers from a liver transplant. Amy Rising, the commissioner's chief deputy director, is acting in her stead. I know you join me in wishing Mary and her family the best. As we end another school year, let me begin my remarks with a note of gratitude for all that each of you do every day for your students. To the teachers, counselors, and school leaders who serve on the commission, I am so grateful for your dedication and high-quality work on behalf of your educators, students, and their families. And to our higher education and community partners, thank you for all that you do to support the next generation of educators. I am so proud to serve with you. Whether you are in PK-12 or higher education, the end of the school term is marked by graduation or commencement celebrations. When I was dean of the College of Education at CSU Long Beach, commencement was by far my favorite day of the year. I loved seeing all the smiling faces of the graduates and their proud family and friends. But make no mistake, our new educators are facing challenging times. class of 2023 graduates will be facing a future of censorship of ideas and history and an intolerance for diversity that is unprecedented. And please don't think we are immune to these forces just because we live in California. For example, in 2022, over 2,500 different book titles were banned or censored by school districts and states, according to the American Library Association. This represents a 38% increase from the previous year. Most of these targeted books were about people of color or LGBTQ+ individuals. As Casey Meehan of PEN America Foundation states, it isn't just individual books being removed, restricted, and suppressed in public schools. It is a set of ideas, themes, identities, and knowledge of the history of our country. The poem written for President Joe Biden's inauguration by poet laureate Amanda Gorman has been placed on a restricted book list at a South Florida elementary school after one parent's complaint. Another example comes from UCLA's Institute for Democracy, Education, and Access. According to these researchers, for the last several years, some parent groups have been showing up to school board meetings, and some legislators have been developing legislation to prevent educators from teaching about systemic racism and sexism. These are just a few examples of a national effort to use cultural war issues and co-op language such as critical race theory and indoctrination to drive wedges among educators, parents, and communities. Such efforts to restrict teaching and learning have huge implications for educators and students who have been impacted by local anti-critical race theory efforts. Most importantly, these efforts obstruct both students of color and white students from learning together about issues of race and diversity. But despite these forces, I would ask all of us to take a moment to remember why we chose to be an educator in the first place. For me, it was because I wanted to make a difference in the lives of students with disabilities. In my first field placement, I observed the magic of teaching by my master teacher, and I wanted to be just like her. And as Dr. Linda Darling Hammond, researcher, scholar, president of the State Board of Education, and former chair of this commission has reminded us, teaching is the profession upon which all other professions depend. Think about that for a moment. As educators, we have the privilege to prepare the next generation of artists, engineers, scientists, doctors, politicians, poets, civic leaders, and yes, educators. Our collective work is critical and fundamental to building the next generation of citizens who will help to shape our democracy. What could be more important than this? Let me close by recognizing our student liaison, Maris Tran. Your thoughtful contributions to our conversations and deliberations have been inspiring, and you have given me much hope about the future of the teaching force. On behalf of all the commissioners and staff, we wish you the very best. Please stay in contact and let us know how your first year of teaching unfolds. Thank you. Oh, and rumor has it, that Harold Acords, this is his last meeting following 17 years of service. On behalf of all the commissioners and all the students and faculty you have served, I thank you for your thoughtful contributions and partnership, Harold. Thank you. Now I'm going to turn it over to Amy.
Good morning, commissioners. I have a few items to report. Yeah, you're good? Okay. Okay, first of all, also I would like to join Commissioner Credentialing in thanking all of the educators in California who are completing and celebrating the closing of the academic year. And we hope you all enjoy a deserved, restful, and rejuvenating summer break. And we do hope you all come back to be with us in the fall. Secondly, I would also like to offer our sincere thanks to Harold. We appreciate you, Harold, and on behalf of Dr. Sandy and the commission staff, we too thank you for your service and contributions, and we will miss you and we wish you well. And finally, the commission is accepting applications for the educator preparation student liaison position, who will serve as an advisor on the views and experiences of students to the commission. Students will be enrolled in a commission-approved educator preparation program and are in good standing from September 1st, 23 through September 30th, 2024 may apply. The application and detailed information are located on the Commission's websites. And we thank you for your service and we wish you well also. And with that, I will turn it back to you, Madam Chair.
Do any commissioners have items to report? Yes, Commissioner Brown.
As always, I have a short one. Welcome, everyone, and thank you. Thank you. I just have a quick one, which is just to let all of our commissioners know and the public how successful and deep the ECE community circles have been and are being. Our staff, Renee Marshall and Debbie King, and the rest of the staff has just done a great job. It brings a lot of the constituents together, particularly in the focus of bringing early childhood education into this work. The community, California community colleges, the CSUs, other teacher preparation programs, UCs, and also the school districts. So it really is a great place for that to happen. And what they do is they follow the participants' interests and their questions and concerns. And then the next meeting, they bring that up as a topic with people who are connected. And this last one, it's such a safe space. The colleagues really pulled together in sort of a joint inquiry. And this last one had two CSUs, San Francisco State and Fresno State, talking about how they're developing this PK-3 credential, and all of us got to hear their process and ask them questions and find out how else it's happening so that these community colleges, LEAs, et cetera, can know what's going on. So I just wanted to say that because it's just great. Yeah, it's a step, many steps in the right direction. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Brown. Other commissioners? Yes, Commissioner Pabre.
Good morning, everyone. So I had a couple of announcements to share from the CSU. Firstly, in keeping with the theme of graduation and commencement and congratulations, we have high hopes and really want to hear about all the wonderful things you're doing. I wanted to add, we graduated in the CSU 125,000 highly qualified graduates. We're going to make a huge impact in California and beyond. So really proud of that. Our search for our new chancellor is underway. We're hoping to know who our new chancellor will be in July. So excited there. And in keeping with what Catherine was sharing, I wanted to share a resource for higher education as folk are developing the PK-3 credential. So under the auspices of the Uplift California grant, groups of intersegmental partners comprising of the CSU, community college, and LEAs across the state have developed program design principles, which are available on our website. I'll make sure to give the link for the minutes. And they basically are a guide to better understand the standards and to support programs as they're developing the new PK-3 credentials. So just wanted to make sure everyone knew about that resource. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Pabre. Other commissioners? I'm looking around the table here. Yes, Commissioner Wright-Smith.
Good morning, everyone. First of all, I just want to acknowledge this month. It celebrates Pride, and it also has within it the celebration of Juneteenth, which is now a federal holiday. And one of the things that I would love to just bring to light in light of what Madam Chair mentioned today with regards to kind of the erosion of our democracy in a lot of ways. Juneteenth is not just a celebration of freedom for enslaved African Americans, but it also is a reminder that these people were free 2 years prior and was not informed of their right to freedom. And so I think this is something that we should always carry with us, to understand that freedom is not something that we should take for granted. And it is not something that we should easily let be eroded away because people have feelings about what the history says, right? And we should acknowledge and celebrate those who continuously fight for their freedoms as we look to Juneteenth as a memorial of that, and as we look to Pride for also a celebration of that. So thank you for listening. And from my sector, a couple of things I wanted to just kind of bring to light. Our USC has a program called the Neighborhood Academic Initiative, which has been in place for almost 40 years. And it is a program that works with their families of schools in South Central Los Angeles and actually brings them to campus, works with them over the summer, and have Saturday academies. They keep them from 6th through 12th grade. And then in 12th grade, they offer them a full scholarship to the University of Southern California, making it possible to access, a private, high quality education. The University of San Diego has recently also started a program that's similar to NAI based on the foundation called the Black Ingenious Initiative. And so in San Diego County, the African American subgroup is the only one that is not making any incremental gains in their academic attainment. So this was developed in collaboration with the architects of the NAI program to really address those inequalities and to, again, provide access to high quality private education. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Whitesmith. Any other commissioners? I am practicing my teacher wait time here. All right. Do any liaisons have items to report? Yes.
Good morning, commissioners. Happy Pride Month. Yeah, there's so much to say about Pride. Beautiful and also painful things to come into in this Pride Month, with the record number of anti-trans bills, and also just the backlash that corporations have had on their stances of Pride and the normalization of Pride, even though there's critique on how performative these corporations have already been in demonstrating their support for Pride, but to rescind these stances on the normalization of Pride and the visibility of queer and trans folks. Yeah, it's a difficult Pride this year, and this moment where queer and trans people stand together and our allies stand together to support and love one each other. Both the beauty and the suffering is always like so deeply intertwined. So that's what I'm thinking about for this Pride Month. In the last episode of this meeting, I had just submitted my edTPA, and I am happy to say I have passed the edTPA. Yay! So thank you all for your support. There's no other people that would rather be around that truly understands what the edTPA means. So thank you all for your continued support throughout my journey here. I have accepted a position for a school called Latitude High in Fruitvale neighborhood of Oakland. So I'll be teaching biology at that school for the upcoming school year. In the meantime, I am finishing up my master's thesis. So I have graduated and I've attended the commencement for the Berkeley Teacher Education Program, but I'll be spending the summer making a video. So instead of a paper, I can make a video of my master's thesis. So my master's thesis will be on fostering curiosity for chemistry in my classroom. And so the action research that I did was a weekly routine where I had a anonymous submission box, and then students could enter in entries answering the question, what is the chemical composition of blank? And so whatever students wanted to know about the chemical composition, we learned a lot about biochemistry, like college level stuff that students were engaged and interested and curious about. And so I'll be working on sharing all these stories and learnings about the things that students were generally interested about, curious about, how I inadvertently had to do sex education and drug education because this was what students were most curious about, and all of the stories that went behind that. So I'm really excited to share this video with you once I'm done with it. Other updates, I have also gained news that I have been accepted as a Knowles Teacher Fellow. So the Knowles Fellowship is a fellowship for early STEM educators. It's a 5-year fellowship where we get professional development and stipends so that we can develop as teacher leaders, as STEM educators. So I've just received that. I've received that fellowship, and then the orientation for that fellowship will be in Philadelphia in mid-July. So open to recommendations for your Philly restaurants, your favorite Philly cheesesteak restaurant, or your favorite Abbott Elementary reference. And last big thing is yesterday, the Berkeley Teacher Education Program began their next cohort. So I have graduated and the next cohort has already started. I happen to be in the building when they were first taking their first class. Their first class that they're taking is the arts integration course taught by Nevis Wetzel de Cedillo. She has taught me so much on arts integration. A lot of my curriculum development work was on the integration of dance and chemistry and how we can see that together. So I happened to be in the building. She invited me to teach a choreography line dance for the cohort. And the really beautiful thing about that class is really just de-settling all of these insecurities and anxieties that we may have around arts. And we have to de-settle that for ourselves as individual people, because if an educator thinks I'm not an artist, I'm not a dancer, I'm not a singer, those anxieties can foreclose those opportunities for students to invite those assets into the classroom even before they step into the school. So to be able to invite and also engage in the discomforts of like, oh, I've never danced it before, I've never done a two-step before, like to invite those discomforts and how we can de-settle that for ourselves as individual people so that we can show up better as educators. So it's such an honor to be able to pass the torch and build connections with hopefully multiple cohorts in the future of aspiring educators in California. So I just want to thank all of you for having me, for hearing my stories, for listening to me, to encouraging me. That has been such a gift, and I will never forget this time that I've had here. I think I've had so many, all of you as role models that I can really think about. I think so much about how you all are so data-driven, so critical, but also so compassionate and warm and welcoming as educators. And that's just something that I want to take with me and carry with me as I carry my own torch into the classroom. So thank you so much for having me. That concludes my report. I'm really excited to have our conversations on literacy in the RICA, and thank you again.
Thank you, Student Liaison Tron. Wow, is all I can say. We really look forward to see where you take yourself and your students in the trajectory. So thank you again. Gone. Okay. I now recess the general session and move to the Educator Preparation Committee. And thank you all for your timeliness of your comments. I am really excited. Commissioner Bonnie Klatt will chair the committee since Commissioner Martinez is participating remotely. Commissioner Klatt, will you please convene the committee?
Yes, thank you and good morning, Commissioner Martinez. I will do my best to to carry your torch here. I would like to call the June 2023 meeting of the Educator Preparation Committee to order. We have 6 agenda items. 3 of these items are scheduled for today. The remaining 3 are scheduled for tomorrow. The first item for today is item 2A, the report to the legislature on the implementation of Senate Bill 488, teacher credentialing, reading instruction. This item is being presented by Roxanne Purdue and Heather Kennedy. This is an action item. Ms. Purdue, will you please begin?
Can you get just a little closer to the mic? Thank you.
Oh, it probably helps if you get that button pressed really well and see the green light too. So, but that was just so I could have a joke at the beginning. Really, it was planned. So once again, it's our annual report to the legislature on the implementation of Senate Bill 488, which is reading instruction as at its heart. To remind you, because you've been with me every step of the way as we've been through this over more than half a dozen agenda items, I would say annual report. So our first one we had and we transmitted to the legislature back in July 1st, 2022. And this is our second one that covers the period of July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2023. Got to get my years right there. And I have good news for you, something to celebrate. We are on target and on time with our implementation of Senate Bill 488. And that's what this report is about. So let me give you an overview. Instead of my usual 20 slides overview on SB 48, I figure you at the table now are experts too. So I'm going to reduce it down to 1 slide. And so this is our core. You know, what is 488 about? It requires the commission to complete a series of actions. And we're going to hit those main actions right now. First, it required that we create new program standards, program standard 7 for all the credentials. That was kind of lucky. And in literacy instruction and reading, and the corresponding teaching performance expectations, or TPEs, as you'll hear them called from now on. And we wanted to align with the current State Board of Education adopted English language arts and English language development framework. We wanted to incorporate the California Department of Education's California Dyslexia Guidelines into those standards and TPEs. Additionally, we are required to develop and implement a process of certification for programs, ensuring that they have transitioned and started their process of Standard 7, and that they are adhering to their coursework, introducing, practicing, and assessing Domain 7 of our TPEs. Then we're required to develop and implement a performance assessment in literacy instruction by July 1st, 2025, and that is on target. And then we, of course, are supposed to report annually to the legislature, and here we are on time again. So another reason to celebrate. This was part of your work too. You were with us every step of the way, and we adopted standards and TPEs. It was the heavy lift for this bill. And thankfully, I just want to take one moment to acknowledge our leader at the beginning who helped us with our development of these standards and TPEs, Nancy Brennelson. And Nancy is now the co-director of literacy for the state of California, and she's with CDE now. But I have her cell phone number, so I just text her. Anyway, in October 2022, you adopted the preliminary multiple subject and single subject English language arts standards and TPEs, the education specialist in mild, moderate support needs and extensive support needs, and the new preliminary PK3 early childhood education specialist credential. That was not required by statute. We voluntarily did that as a commission. And so we wanted to align it with all other credentials, and in this case, align with the multiple subject credential. And then the preliminary education specialist, low incidence areas that they're referred to sometimes, visual impairments, deaf and hard of hearing, and early childhood special education were adopted at a later meeting, February 2023, so that we could get public input and really specialize those standards and TPEs to address their particular needs. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to my partner, Heather Kennedy. Heather?
Thank you, Roxanne, and good morning, commissioners. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you fine.
Thank you. Just wanted to make sure before I started. The Literacy Performance Assessment Design Team has held its first 4 meetings in its 2-year development process. And while we're still very early in our work, the design team is working to prioritize TPE elements from Domain 7 to measure in a redeveloped Cycle 2 of the Commission's model, the CalTPA, assessment-driven instruction. Appendix E contains an overview of the currently adopted CalTPA Cycle 2. Much of the Cycle 2 structure will remain the same, such as retaining 3 types of assessment and student use of educational technology while infusing the new literacy TPEs. The design team has been deliberating how to prioritize and measure TPE elements from Domain 7. You can see the beginnings of ideas being considered on pages 9 to 10 of the item. We have been working closely with our liaisons at CDE, which include Nancy Brennelson, on the design team to ensure cohesion in our work with pre-service and in-service teachers. The pilot test will take place in spring 2024 and the field test in spring 2025. While I'm only speaking today regarding design team updates for the Commission's model, CalTPA, for multiple subject PK-3 and our 5 education specialist credentials, the Commission adopted models for edTPA and FAST have shared that they will be working with the Commission staff to revise their models for the Commission's review and potential adoption. We look forward to providing additional information in our August performance assessment item for the Commission's discussion and direction. I will now turn it back over to Roxanne to discuss next steps.
Okay, so before we start on next steps, I did want to talk a little bit about partnerships that we had in this particular item. We had a work group that was almost 30 people, and it was just such a widespread of experts and public members and partners. It covered focus areas that we needed to have, whether it was English learners or special education. We had expert focus groups separate from that in the areas of special education, in the low incidence areas, separate expert groups. And all of those you'll see in your appendices. So if you want to know who was on each of those expert work groups, it's all there at the end of the report. We had public input meetings for each of the low incidence areas. That was really valuable. We had input from all of you multiple times, and it was so helpful as we continue to develop and fine-tune those standards and performance expectations. So it was very much a partnership in this development so far, and it will continue to be so as we move forward. With that, what's our next steps? So we talked about what's accomplished. Let's talk about what's in progress. We have literacy performance standards and TPEs replacing the 2019 literacy TPEs, beginning July 1st, 2024 for programs. All existing credential programs will be aligned to those new standards and TPEs. All new program proposals that come in, however, and they're just starting a program, they have to be aligned when they come in to their initial program review process. So they're already meeting standard 7. We brought in experts to work with us on our review of those implementation of those standards and TPEs. So it's been a very involved process, and I just want to acknowledge the work of our IPR team and Administrator Aaron Sullivan in that work, because it's immense at this point as we work our way forward. And then we have our certification process. That's in development right now. And information on that process will be released in the early fall of 2023. And that's an important point because in the report, I put fall 2024. So no, it won't be after the fact. It'll be before coming out. And that was noted from one of our public comments too. So they'll be happy to see that on the report, page 5, we will be recommending to you as an action to update the report with that date. And when I say fall 2023, I mean early fall, end of August, beginning of September, so we can stay with that on target focus that we have of being on time too. We're going to be providing, staff will be providing technical assistance programs throughout 2023 and 2024. We've already had 2 webinars that were focused. We have a resource guide that's specifically for programs that was helped to be developed by our work group and Nancy Bernelson as they move forward on implementing their new standards and TPEs. And then, of course, a series of program sponsor alerts that went out to programs with the new standards and TPEs. But a lot more needs to be done, and it will be as we transition. So this next slide is next steps on our performance assessment work. So I'm going to go over this very carefully, make sure I don't say anything incorrectly. We need to establish guidelines for the participation in the Cal TPA Cycle 2 pilot for the multiple subject education specialists, and that means all of them, all the specialty areas, and PK3 ECE programs and candidates. We need to continue to work with our design team to draft candidate assessment guides, including tasks and rubrics for the spring 2024 pilot. We need to work with the design team further to develop the program faculty guide and provide professional development and technical assistance for programs identified for the pilot. And of course, we need to work with the edTPA and FAST to support the development, pilot, and field tests of other performance assessment models that we have here in California to comply with SB 488. And with that, I'm going to give you your recommended action that we recommend staff. And I'm going to read this really carefully too, because it has an amendment, and this is our goal is to have this transmitted to the legislature with the correct date on page 5. So with that, we're asking that the commission approve the report to the legislature on Senate Bill 488, teacher credentialing reading instruction, for transmittal to the legislature with the following amendment. On page 5 of the agenda item, in the final sentence of the last paragraph, under the section titled Updating Reading and Literacy Methods Courses and Teacher Preparation Program, it currently states that it is anticipated that more information about the certification process will be made available to programs in early fall 2024. And instead, we're asking that that sentence be amended to say fall 2023. And so we recommend transmittal to your approval for transmittal to the legislature with that amendment to the report. And with that, I thank you and turn it back over to Bonnie.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Perdue and Ms. Kennedy. We will now open for public comment. If there are members of the public that would like to give a presentation, please notify the meeting moderator by submitting a request card or clicking on the raise hand icon if participating through Zoom, or pressing *9 if participating by phone. Recording secretary, are there any public comments?
Yes, Angelica Salazar. please unmute your microphone and share your comment.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Angelica Salazar, and I'm a new senior policy advocate on Public Advocates Education Equity Team. It's wonderful to join your meeting today and meet you all. Thank you so much for presenting us with this update on the Commission's work to implement SB 488. Public Advocates was a key supporter of this bill and the effort to streamline arbitrary and discriminatory barriers to the profession while maintaining critical and important standards in more effective ways. Along with some of our partners who will speak later today, we appreciate the Commission's effort to form the SB 488 Literacy Work Group and conduct broad community consultation on the development and adoption of the new literacy standards and TPEs. We agree that authentic community engagement is critical at every stage in this implementation process. As such, we request that the Commission provide the public with specific information and updates about the technical assistance provided as your teams move forward to align standards and practice with the teacher preparation programs. For example, it would be really valuable for the public to understand what feedback the Commission is getting from teacher prep programs in terms of potential challenges ahead. Then we can help ensure this work receives sufficient resources to best equip programs to address any difficulties in making these changes to their curricula. Successful implementation will ultimately lead to a more diverse and prepared workforce serving our high-need students of color. Thank you so much for collaborating with us and working with us to further realize this collective goal.
We have no additional requests for public comment.
I'll give it just a moment to make sure we've caught everybody. All right. The public comment period for this item is now closed. Do commissioners have any questions or comments on this item? Yeah, Commissioner Francois.
Good morning, everyone. Okay, I have no questions because you answered my one question when you updated the date for implementation, whatever the date was that you shared. But I just want to take this opportunity because when I read through this item, I thought to myself, the incredible work that you all do before you met we do before we make these changes. And I know that during this year in particular, I've been a little bit grouchy and I've pushed against some of what's been happening and I couldn't find anything that I disagreed with. But I found a couple of things I just want to give a particular shout out to y'all for. The first of which, I so appreciated this timeline that you provided that documented the steps and the micro steps that have happened behind closed doors in some cases, in public view, but you all know what I mean by that. The various working groups that got together, the webinars, the development of support materials. It really is very, very impressive. And I think it's the kind of documentation that the field appreciates, because as we are on the ground trying to make things happen, we often ask ourselves, what are they doing over there? This is what they're doing over there. So I really appreciated that. The other thing that I appreciated was, and we do this often, and I don't think that it could be said enough, the breadth and depth of expertise that was gathered in those working groups in order to make sure that we did this right across both the research and practitioner communities. And I think that's really important because the research community their work cannot be made manifest in schools without the practitioner community partnership. So I really appreciated just the sheer numbers, let alone the talent within the working group. So I have a feeling, Amy, you had something to do with that. So I'm going to say thank you, particularly to you, the composition of those groups. And then the other thing that I was impressed with, I've been concerned about all of the initiatives across the state, particularly, funding is always great. When you get these rollouts of billions of dollars to support public education, it's great. And oftentimes we take those things up in very discrete, isolated kinds of ways. I'm not convinced that we've gotten to a place where alignment is the way of the day. It made my heart sing when I read in here how you all were trying to align, how we are trying to align the work of Prop 488 with other initiatives across the state, in particular, the Reading Coach and Literacy Initiative that the CDE is supporting. So I just want to say to the staff how much this represents, I believe, some of the best work that we do as a commission, and it could not be done without you. So thank you very much.
Anyone want to follow that? Commissioner Heredia?
I do kind of want to piggyback on what you said about the information in terms of what the work group did. I think a lot of times in reports we get items and it just says the work group met, and this is what was in the outcome of that meeting. But I'm not sure if it was in this one or the next one. When I read when they were in groups, what the task was, and then they moved to another group and what the task was. That kind of reporting to me allowed me to see there wasn't just a meeting of the minds and then you come up with with a product, but there was a lot of thought and analytical attempts to kind of understand what are we doing here. I mean, other than just coming to be on a famous CTC committee looking at that. So I agree with you that helps me to understand that there was a lot of work behind the scenes. I mean, we always know there's a lot of work behind the scenes, right? But it's just to the extent of how they thought about things was impressive. I just wanted to comment about one thing on the on the dyslexia. Let's see, I'm not sure where it was in here, but I've talked to faculty at different, at my former campus and other campuses and about that. And so one of the things I said, so what would you want me to tell the CTC about the work that's coming down from us? And they said, well, there's two things. Number one is that we never get to take away anything. We just keep adding stuff. So there kind of needs to be this understanding of like, do we need everything here, or can we start to eliminate? And an example is one of the faculty members told me that they're going to spend their summer going through all of their syllabi and looking at what do I now have to eliminate, which is difficult because certain lessons have been very successful for them and for their students. So what am I now going to have to eliminate to now make room for new mandates that are part of now their workload. So they said, it would be really nice, just to be able to understand how other people are approaching that task of eliminating, because it's like, the RECA, try to implement the RECA and get that in your coursework. And then, everything else here. So just some feedback about, what are people doing? How are they doing it? And it's really an isolated task sometimes in some, colleges, because they may be the only person that's working on this. Although they do have, for example, communication and with their colleagues, and for example the SPED department of the teacher training, that's where it has been able to get people to really talk to each other, but at the same time they may be the only person who is tasked with making all these changes. Thank you.
Yeah, Commissioner Francois.
I really appreciate that, and it resonates with me. It made me think about, Commissioner Brown, your comment this morning about the ECE circles and how that structure was so meaningful for the folks that are participating. And I know that in each of the segments, that we bring together our faculty when these kinds of changes happen to learn from one another, to share information. And I wonder if the commission might take up perhaps hosting something similar for programs to come together to share their practices, their concerns, and help work through some of the tensions of these kinds of shifts together.
And if I may, just to address both of you, one of the plans will be to have office hours for this, for SB 488 implementation and the certification process. So that is the plan, and that's when everyone comes together, and hopefully we learn as much from it as they gather and have their questions for us. That's the way we see office hours usually happen here at the commission. So.
Yeah, so if I might just build on that, there are lots of ways that we're learning about how to better communicate with all of our constituents that are required and invited to attend to literacy in California. And office hours is certainly one way that we have found to be very helpful to those who want to talk directly to staff. And we explored that sort of coming through the pandemic and out of the pandemic in all kinds of ways, even down to having direct hours with candidates in regards to the performance assessment work, which was very helpful to the candidates, we think, that showed up, and was very helpful actually to us as staff to understand what people were grappling with. So certainly office hours, certainly webinars. We have ways to archive our webinars. And, you know, really the best way that we can help practitioners, I think, is to provide those opportunities and forums, community circles, as we're learning with our PK to 3 colleagues, and Renee's work as she's joined, and Debbie, and now Bronwyn and others, is to really get practitioners together and let them share best practices. So we have that opportunity here at the state to hold those kind of forums. So we will certainly be doing that. And the hope that I have is really we have 2 years ahead of us here for very deep work on this, and we are getting underway. So hopefully, and I'm glad to hear that the item was helpful in laying out for you what we've already accomplished. There is much work to come. Implementation is always harder than the planning phase, and we're here to support everyone that needs that support. So I also offer to all listening, if you have other ideas for us in ways we can support you, please let us know. We're always happy to make things happen. So we thank you for putting a spotlight on technical support and assistance. We're at the very beginning of our performance assessment work, 4 meetings into a 2-year experience. So lots of work going on there as well. So yeah, and I don't know, Roxanne or Heather, if you wanted to add anything else about supports.
I would actually say today and yesterday, Sacramento County Office of Education had received a grant from CDE, and they are hosting yesterday and today literacy conference, and it has over close to 3,000 attendees, as I recall. And they maxed out because I wanted to have more of our staff attend. I got to attend yesterday, and that's where I'll be attending after completion today. But such great speakers, finding people who I might have come our way, hopefully, that were inspirational and things that we can pass along. So that would be, there's opportunities abounding right now in this area, outside of the commission, outside of California even. It's being taken up by many states. So I would encourage everyone to seek out those opportunities, and I will find some way of communicating that as I find them myself. So
There's also in the past, if people wanted to go back and look at ways in which others are preparing for this transition, there was a Digging Deeper webinar that we hosted from the performance assessment development side that Tanya Fleshman from the CAR-W CSU Center was a guest speaker at, and that is on our YouTube page. And she really walked through in a really easy to understand way, the way in which they are preparing for this transition with the new literacy standards and some of the items that you all brought up today with, you know, how do I make some of these decisions about my coursework and my planning?
Commissioner Gross?
Thank you. I just wanted to think about as a teacher, right, in the classroom. I work in a district where we have been doing a lot of retraining of current teachers to meet the dyslexia guidelines and to provide better first instruction in reading and literacy. And so one of the things I hope to kind of put out there for IHEs to think about as we're redesigning our programs is that literacy is a part of everything we do all day long. And I think we have to be really cautious about teaching a reading course in isolation because that is what we have done as when you're going back and retrofitting professional learning. And then teachers return to their classroom and are like, I don't know where this goes. Like, where does this 30 minutes of phonics instruction go? And what do I eliminate? And how do I, and so I think really these are discrete systematic skills, but that art of teaching that we really need to support our candidates with of how does this woven throughout everything we do all day long, every single day, will be so powerful for our students. Because I think we are in a really unique moment with how educators feel and are treated. And I think folks are still really, really tired and maybe angry coming out of COVID. And so I think the more we can help our candidates really streamline that and not just check a box will be so impactful for our students. So I just wanted to put that out there as you do your technical assistance this year, really thinking about how our programs weaving these standards throughout rather than just a standalone class.
I started to raise my hand and then realized I can call on myself. So just to piggyback on what Commissioner Gross said, as a single subject English teacher, I've always had this question ever since we started looking at this bill about the singling out of single subject English teachers, because as you said, literacy is part of we all should be teaching literacy. And so thinking about our new single subject English teachers who might be coming into classrooms as interns or getting their hours, they might be entering classrooms where single subject English teachers probably will not have had this training. And so also thinking about how do we pull those teachers in and make sure that existing single subject English teachers are aware of what's going on and what's happening. So I don't know if you're able to speak to that at all, but I'm curious about in the work groups, how much discussion was there about the inclusion of single subject English and how that not only in the programs, but then in the classrooms, how will that bridge, how is that bridge being built? I don't know if you're able to speak to that or not.
I'm going to start with Commissioner Gross's comments because they were really on target. One of the things that I think I looked at some submissions that were coming in from new programs that are already having to address Standard 7, and they were addressing it across multiple courses within their programs. And you would, if you look at the overview, before it even digs deep into, Standard 1, before it digs into foundational skills, it covers those good teaching practices like MTSS, multi-tiered systems of support. It doesn't isolate reading instruction separate from good instruction. And so it can be addressed in many different courses. And so there's an opportunity there as an institution to work as teams. You may have one instructor who's your reading instructor, and you may find that you need more than one class to cover this information. And I think that's a possibility too for some of the programs. But where can we spread the content of this across multiple courses? And where can we start to build teamwork and having our staff come together and not have one isolated person working on this implementation? I think the support when you have a big project in front of you is huge, and working with other faculty and having that collaboration is so important. So that would be my addition to that piece. Regarding Commissioner Klatt, yours is a more difficult question for me to answer. I would say there was definitely a discussion about how as you hit your 7th and 8th grade levels and you leave the elementary subjects, where would the intensive reading instruction occur if you have students, and we do in California, a good percentage of students who are not reading at grade level. And so where's that intense reading instruction going to occur? And I think that the concept there would be that it would be in the English language arts classroom for some students. I think that you're absolutely correct, though, and our work group did discuss this too, that literacy, and I think Commissioner Herrera, I'm sorry, I didn't say your name right, is accurate here too. It's not isolated, and literacy occurs across content areas. You couldn't absorb your content without literacy, and so it's important across content areas. That's why I think it's a teamwork approach, and we really need to look at all of our coursework and see where it fits in. I know I earned my credential back in 1992, I think. And back then we had a secondary reading course that we had to attend at our campus. And so I know that even at that time, it was recognized that literacy doesn't stop at elementary grade level, and it doesn't limit itself to English. So thank you for pointing that out, Commissioner Klatt.
Thank you. Commissioner Brown?
Thank you. I really appreciate this conversation. I just want to highlight something that that in our California standards, in our ELA standards for grades 6 through 12, there are specific literacy standards in history, social studies, science, and technical subjects. And so when we transitioned to these new standards in 2010, I think, that was a big aha for many people. Although we do it and we know that there are specific reading and literacy skills that go into reading a science text or a social studies text or something like that, to see it in paper and that it lives in the ELA standards has been somewhat elusive for someone who is getting their single subject credential. About how do we bridge those elements and how do we highlight that literacy is literacy and it exists in the different silos. So as much as we can bring it together and highlight the current documents we have that have been in existence since 2010, but make those connections between theory, practice, the standards, bring them all together, I think we'll all come out of that conversation more informed, and that this is not a new concept, but really has been in our state adopted standards since 2010. So I just wanted to highlight that and consider how do we bring all of those pieces together so that we have amazing practitioners really contributing to successful outcomes for kids.
And which is why my question when Senate Bill 488 came out was why weren't the other, because you're right, the standards address literacy across these content areas. And so I've always been a little confused by why we didn't include that in this, but we didn't, and that ship sailed. So Commissioner De La Torre.
Thank you, Commissioner Klatt. I wanted to say that I really appreciate seeing the list of all the members and the diversity and the expertise and the blend of practitioners and experts. Because I know I'm always curious, like, well, where are the actual practitioners here? And I've asked them in the past many times. Because I think it's important to have that. So I appreciate all that work, and I know it's been difficult because there's so many people. There are 73 in this group listed here, and that's not counting everybody else that's given input. So I appreciate all that tremendously. The other thing that I was thinking about is that I know in 1991, it was a big aha for me as a teacher that literacy is not limited to just your English language arts block. It's throughout all the content areas for elementary school teachers. And then, so that's been trickling its way up to all single subject credential teachers are also literacy teachers. But my experience has been that if you're a math teacher or a science teacher or a social studies teacher in high school or single subject, you don't see yourself as a literacy educator. So how are we going to make that transition so that all teacher preparation programs make it clear to every teacher that we are all literacy instructors, even if we have a single subject credential? Because I know it was a difficult transition for us in elementary in 91 to realize, oh, we can teach literacy all day long through all the content areas in history or social, and science. So for us, it was a little bit of like a drag. Like, I have to teach language arts all day long. Some of us don't like language arts. We prefer math or science. But that realization and moving in that direction was the right move. And I think we need to see that same move now to where all single subject credential teachers also see themselves as literacy instructors, and not to think that they shouldn't be teaching phonics if that's what their students need, because we all teach what the students need at the time that we get them. So just because you're a 10th grade teacher, if you have a student who doesn't have the foundational reading skills, you still should be able to teach those students how to gain those skills, because that's what the student needs. And I know I've seen a lot of pushback from teachers, resistance, that they don't want to teach that. They'll say, well, if I wanted to teach that, I would have got an elementary credential. But if you want to teach, you want to teach. So that's my comment, but thank you.
Thank you. And I guess the good news is this is a beginning, right? This is a beginning, so we can continue. I know this is an action item. Are there any other questions or comments or motions about approving and I know you had a very specific list of the recommendation. Are there any other comments or a motion? I think, let's see if I have it in my notes here, that the motion was to approve the report to the legislature, including the corrections to the dates that were listed at the beginning of the item.
So moved.
Okay, so thank you. So, just for the record, sorry, it's early and I'm on vacation. I have kind of vacation going on here. So I need to first acknowledge that Chair Grenoshire made the motion, and it looks like I have a second for Commissioner Simmons. Any further discussion or questions on this item? All right. Then will the recording secretary please call for the vote?
Brown.
Aye.
Jose Cardenas.
Aye.
Juan Cruz.
Aye.
Christopher Davis.
Aye.
Michael De La Torre.
Aye.
Makita Grenoshire.
Aye.
Megan Gross.
Aye.
Johanna Harwick.
Aye.
Susan Aradia.
Aye.
Bonnie Clark.
Aye.
Ira Litt.
Aye.
Monica Martinez.
Aye.
David Simmons.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Right, thank you, Ms. Purdue and Ms. Kennedy. We appreciate that's a lot, and so thank you so much for all the work that you and the staff do to make all these things happen. It's been such an inspiring morning, just all together, hearing everyone's comments.
Thank you for your input.
Thank you.
It's going to help.
All right, so moving along next, we have item 2B, the proposed transition plan for the reading instruction competence assessment. This item is being presented by David DeGarry. This is an action item. Mr. DeGarry, will you please begin?
Good morning, Commissioners. This agenda item presents for the Commission's review and potential adoption a transition plan for the Reading Instruction Competent Assessment, or RICA, pursuant to the Commission's work to implement Senate Bill 488. As summarized in the previous agenda item, SB 488 requires the Commission to develop a new literacy performance assessment to replace RICA, which shall be used starting July 1, 2025. Through planning discussions and preparation for the new performance assessment, staff identified 3 major groups of teacher candidates and teachers who will be affected by the transition from RICA to the new performance assessment. These groups are 1, candidates who complete teacher preparation coursework before July 1, 2025, but have not yet earned a preliminary credential by then. 2, candidates who complete coursework and/or clinical practice after July 1, 2025, including candidates in integrated undergrad teacher programs and those who will start their preparation programs close to the July 2025 transition. And 3, multiple subject and education specialist teachers who earned their preliminary credential during the pandemic and were not able to take RECA because of test center closures and capacity issues. Their RECA requirement was deferred for 5 years, and it must be met to clear their credential. Table 1 on pages 2 and 3 of the item identifies for each group how they can demonstrate competence in reading instruction before and after July 1, 2025. The first group, some of whom have started taking RECA subtests, but may not have passed all 3 before July 2025 transition, will need to transition to the new literacy performance assessment and will not be able to use their prior RECA examination scores towards meeting the statutory requirement. The second group who will be completing their preparation after July 1, 2025 must complete the new literacy performance assessment. The third group can pass RECA by June 30th, 2025 to meet the renewal requirement. Starting July 1, 2025, they must either complete the new literacy performance assessment or pass a reading instruction exam used by another state that the Commission determines meets the requirements of SB 488. The Commission received a public comment questioning whether teachers who hold this preliminary credential with a RECA renewal requirement are allowed by law to meet the requirement with the literacy performance assessment. Education Code Section 44283.3, which specifically addresses the requirement for these teachers, uses the word may in reference to passing exams from other states, rather than the words shall or must. This difference in wording meaning that the statute does not require these teachers to pass an exam from another state, rather it is an option for them. After transition from the RECA to the new literacy performance assessment, this latter will be an option for them as well. Because that option will likely be perceived as less of a time commitment for them. In planning for the RECA transition, staff identified 3 instances in which an approved external examination on literacy instruction may still be needed. These include single subject credential holders who want to add a multiple subject credential, private school teachers seeking a multiple subject PK3 ECE specialist or education specialist credential, and teachers who are prepared in another country. Individuals in these situations may not have access to a classroom of students in which to complete a teaching performance assessment. So it makes sense to have another option for them to demonstrate their competence in reading and literacy instruction. Since the use of exams from other states is an option for provisional credential holders who have the RECA renewal requirement, staff believe that they would be an appropriate option for the 3 situations above. Staff has begun to research available options, and the 2 most common examinations used in other states are the Foundations of Reading Test, which is currently required in 12 states, and the Praxis Teaching Reading Elementary Education Series, which is required in 7 states. Staff intends to review these and other similar state-specific exams for coverage of the requirements in SB 488 and bring a future item to the Commission recommending the use of 1 or more of these exams. Finally, over the next 2 years, staff will provide technical assistance to approved preparation programs regarding program design and how to best advise candidates for the transition from RECA to the new literacy performance assessment. So staff recommends that the Commission approve this RECA transition plan as presented in the item. And if the commission approves the plan, staff will issue a coded correspondence and program sponsor alert regarding the transition to the new literacy performance assessment and other requirements that become effective July 1, 2025. Staff will also work with the commission's testing contractor, the Evaluation Systems Group of Pearson, to post a notice to candidates on the RICA website to inform all candidates, including those currently registered for RICA subtests, of the dates for the retirement of the current RICA exam, and provide information regarding alternative options. Finally, staff will research existing external reading and literacy instruction exams used by other states for compliance with SB 488 requirements. And I am ready for any questions the commission has.
Thank you. We will now open for public comment. If there are members of the public who would like to give a presentation, please notify the meeting moderator by submitting a request card or clicking on the raised hand icon if participating through Zoom, or pressing *9 if participating by phone. Recording secretary, are there any public comments?
Aaron Githens.
Is it on? Okay, thank you. Good morning, Chair, Commissioners, and staff. I'm Erin Githens, she, her, hers. I'm a fifth grade teacher in Los Angeles, and I'm one of the representatives of the California Teacher Association, the one that's not retiring. We appreciate the work done by the staff who put this agenda item together. So I want to start by saying that it was very clear and detailed. I want to remind the commission that our membership has clearly communicated that the demands of the TPA undermine the quality of their clinical practice. In many cases, the TPA falls on the candidate by themselves without the support of their program. It's also worth noting that at CTA's last day council education in May, the delegates created an approved policy that says CTA believes in assessments that come locally from their teacher preparation program exclusively. Further, last year's annual report on TPAs showed significant disproportional outcomes for BIPOC candidates. These candidates were also not noted in the report under major groups of candidates that would be affected by this transition, despite that the data from that report show that they would be affected by this. The LPA has a larger breadth of content that will cover and could potentially be a larger ask of candidates that many could be completing in isolation. This makes CTA wonder what steps are being taken to ensure that this LPA doesn't amplify the negative effects of the TPA on their clinical practice. How can programs support candidates during this process? And what steps are being taken to remove barriers and not heighten them for BIPOC candidates? Thank you.
Roxanne Miller, please unmute your microphone and share your comment.
Thank you. First, I'd like to thank the Commission for clarifying during the public comments for 2A that the Commission will be providing guidance to educator preparation programs on the new literacy TPA in early fall 2023, not fall 2024 as printed in the document. This will be imperative for teacher prep programs to address the new expectations in their coursework and to transition away from the RICA exam. Please know, however, that the term early fall 2023 likely needs to be actualized by the literacy work group as no later than September 1, 2023 for most universities, as revisions to course syllabi are often due within universities no later than October for the following academic year. However, even if provided in early fall 2023, this information is still coming late for several populations of future teachers, including the most diverse candidates seeking to enter the profession and who are participating in 2-year internship programs, integrated teacher prep programs, and those who are students who attend 1-year teacher prep programs on a part-time basis. I've raised this point in multiple prior state meetings as the Dean of the Atala College of Educational Studies at Chapman University, but has as of yet not had this concern acknowledged nor addressed. Because literacy instruction is taught at the very beginning of most teacher preparation programs, these specific populations likely will have completed their literacy courses prior to the guidance being available from the state, thus meaning the content of those literacy courses has prepared them for the RICA exam, not the new literacy TPA. Please consider the impact of additional absence of information to universities on these specific multi-year prepared candidates with regard to the current July 1, 2025 firm retirement date of the RICA and mandatory transition to the new literacy TPA. Having the option for these candidates to continue to take the RICA through December 31, 2025, only for the candidates who have begun their teacher preparation program on or before June 1, 2023, given the guidance is still not available from the state and these students are taking their reading instruction classes this summer and fall 2023, would protect these candidates who are in longer preparation programs. Thank you.
Lori DePaul, please unmute your microphone and share your comment.
Lori DePaul, Co-State Director of Decoding Dyslexia California. We believe that the CTC proposal to allow RICA COVID deferral candidates to opt out of RICA by taking the literacy TPA would be out of compliance with statute and does not align with the statutory intent of SB 488. Section 44283.3 details how to handle the RICA COVID deferral candidates. Statute is clear that the only options for this RICA COVID cohort is to take the RICA, or if the RICA is no longer available, they may take another state's equivalent reading test. Nowhere does it say in statute that the requirements of 44283.3 can be met through the literacy TPA for this cohort. The statute was intentionally drafted this way because this cohort would not have received the benefit of improved and updated coursework and clinical experience under the new literacy standards and TPEs. So they must demonstrate an overall foundational knowledge of reading instruction through the passage of RICA, which is what their teacher preparation programs have prepared them for. Just passing the TPA would not demonstrate this. Thank you.
Manuel Ewan Rostro, please unmute your microphone and share your comment.
Hi, good morning, Commission members. This is Manuel Rostro, Director of Policy at Californians Together. And I just want to reiterate our appreciation for the Commission's and the staff's continued engagement with experts with English learner education during the development of the new reading instruction competency assessment and during the development of this work. We want to emphasize our commitment to maintaining this collaborative approach and this commitment to including and continuing to include experts in biliteracy and English language development as we develop an assessment process that accurately measures the knowledge, skills, and abilities of our credential applicants, especially ensuring that our credential applicants can meet the needs of English learners and or bilingual reading instruction students. At this time, we support efforts and we continue to encourage the Commission to continue to provide details regarding the technical assistance that would be provided to programs so that they understand the new biliteracy and literacy standards and their integration into the assessment process. We again thank you for your continued collaboration and commitment to this work, and thank you for your efforts.
We have no additional requests for public comment.
All right, thank you. We have a brief moment to double check that no one else wanted to make a comment from the public. And seeing none, the public comment period for this item is now closed. Do commissioners have any questions or comments on this item? Yes, Student Liaison Tran.
Thank you, first of all, for putting this report together. Speaking from my perspective as a teacher candidate amongst a cohort who have where the multiple subject candidates have taken the RICA or are still taking the RICA, I know that if table one, if all of the flexibility was applied right now, it would make a difference to the people in my cohort. I'm thinking of my peer and fellow teacher candidate who is a multiple subject candidate who, and just context for the Berkeley Teacher Education Program, everything in the TPE 7 on literacy is already happening within my program. What has been mentioned before in the previous item of how literacy is taught throughout our entire program, of how even the aspects of the importance of bilingual teacher candidates and their development in literacy for bilingual students, for translanguaging practices and frameworks being implemented in our program. That is all happening. And I'm thinking of my fellow peer who I think has retaken the RICA like 3 times and still has not passed. So the fact that this TPE, my program is already implementing this TPE proactively, and still my peer, who is one of the few Black candidates in my cohort, is still not passing the RICA. I think this shows like how important these flexibilities are needed, and how the RICA does need to be either opted out or updated for a more accurate assessment for the literacy standards that all of you have worked so hard in implementing. So I really appreciate the commission's work and the staff's work in implementing these literacy standards, so that hopefully the Berkeley Teacher Education Program is not an exception, but the norm. But I think it just shows how important these flexibilities are needed. And I really appreciate the public comments on suggestions of what the commission staff can do to allow these flexibilities, so that assessments like the RICA isn't the obstacle that is preventing brilliant teacher candidates from getting their preliminary credential. So thank you.
Thank you. Other commissioners' comments or questions? I think Commissioner Pavri, I think you just edged out Commissioner Brown, but you're next.
So I wanted to follow up on the public comment from the Dean at Chapman University, and I was wondering, is it allowable within statute to provide this grace period, if you will, where programs have the option of doing either the RICA or the new TPA? Is that possible?
So statute SB 488 requires that July 1, 2025, the commission must implement a performance assessment that assesses literacy for all candidates who complete the California preparation program. So statute does not, there's no clear authority for the commission to provide additional timeline, or to limit or to require candidates who completed early or who completed before the programs were changed to the new standards to then continue taking the RICA beyond 2025. And one of the things that we already know is that the RICA does not measure the requirements of SB 488 very well. So continuing to use that beyond 2025 just doesn't make sense to us.
Commissioner Brown?
Thank you. I also want to thank the staff for putting together this item. I would like to give a shout out to table 1. I love a good table when it says who, what. So I really appreciate that. That gives me clarity and helps me understand the transition. Having said that, I have the pleasure of working at a school site where we often have teacher candidates. And I always love talking to them. I love chatting with them in the lounge, in the hallways, all sorts of things. And what I have come to find out over the last couple of years is that candidates don't always know about nor understand where they can go for support for certain assessment requirements. For example, TPA. If they have questions or are struggling, and Chief Deputy Director Rising knows, because I've talked to her over the past few years. My daughter took the TPA last year, and she didn't know, who to ask for help or where to go for help. And so that has sort of illuminated for me the need for all of us to really embrace that notion that we have a shared responsibility for our candidates to help them understand where to go or who to ask or what's on YouTube. So I guess what I wanted to highlight is during this transition, if there's some way we can communicate that to all of our partners and to support our institutes of higher ed, you know, in reaching out to candidates, because during this transition, I expect that that understanding and knowledge from candidates about where to go will get murkier before there's clarity. So I just want to highlight that, because in the absence of that clarity, the burden falls on the candidate to navigate that. And we have spoken a lot about our imperative to attract and retain, you know, a diverse candidate workforce and to help support more people coming into these great preparation programs. And so I just want to be mindful as we enter this transition period that we all share responsibility in helping those candidates, that they don't have to go about this alone. There are places to support, but we need to help them find them easily. So however that can be, I want us all to, you know, teamwork makes the dream work. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Commissioner Simmons.
I think that the Chapman comments are particularly persuasive for me. When RICA first came out, I had been doing CBEST prep and CSET prep and MSAT prep, if anybody's old enough to remember that, for several years. And I was in the laundromat, and I had a couple of candidates who were fluff and fold, who said that they stopped me and said, what can you do for RICA? Can you get us test preparation for RICA? And I thought, okay, well, I'll make some more money for the county, and created a RICA test preparation program. And I found RICA to be really susceptible to test preparation because of its sort of cookie cutter nature, which makes you wonder about how valuable the assessment is. But I wonder if there are ways to support candidates that the commission can facilitate who are sort of caught in this transition. The other question I have is, if nothing else, just putting one person in contact with another person. I know that there are still county offices that do test preparation, and they may have some expertise in that area that's available. I haven't done that for like 10 years, so I'm not current. But the other question I have is internships, because they're a 2-year program with another year possibility extension, always make transitions difficult. And I wonder, because RICA is the kind of assessment it is, if it would not behoove programs to, rather than wait till the end of the program, if the RICA class is at the beginning of the program, if candidates just shouldn't be warned that they need to take it right after they pass the class, rather than waiting until they absolutely have to pass it, because that would be too late.
Commissioner Simmons, I think many programs already do that. They strongly encourage their candidates to take RICA as soon as they finish either the 1 or 2 course sequence in literacy.
I saw Commissioner De La Torre and then Commissioner Weitzman.
I think that the comments from Chapman, while it sounds like we should give a grace period, and it makes sense to do that. I go back and think that RICA wasn't doing BIPOC candidates any favors. And so it's also not meeting the requirements that we need to be met. So it really doesn't make sense to extend an assessment that was gatekeeping who was coming into the profession, and B, doesn't even meet the current standards. So it really doesn't make sense to extend that. And plus, looking at the table, there are multiple options. And so it makes more sense to look at these other options that will meet the current standards. So there really is it doesn't make sense to me to extend the RICA for any candidates because it really was not helping. It was quite difficult for BIPOC candidates, and they just were not passing it. And I don't know if it was maybe those that could afford the cookie cutter test prep were doing well because they could afford to do that. But then it's an equity issue for those who cannot afford those programs. And so we need an equitable pathway into the profession. And so I feel like, well, it sounds nice to allow for this extension. It really doesn't make any sense. And so I would be opposed to any type of extension of the RICA.
Commissioner Whitesmith?
So, I just wanted to clarify Dean Roxanne Miller's comment. She wasn't asking for the extension to be past 2025. She was asking for the extension just till December 2025, which I think the requirements allow for it to be within 2025. Period. And the other thing I just kind of want to mention, I don't think that the ask is to the exclusion of the multiple other ways to assess. It was just for that to be extended in addition to, for those who feel more comfortable. And that's because for the independent, private, not-for-profits, a lot of us have done a lot of work to embed support so that our students don't have to, in addition to tuition, also pay for test prep to make it more equitable. And these supports for many of our institutions, which 75% of us are HSIs and emerging HSIs, has really helped our BIPOC candidates and our Latinx candidates be more successful in passing the RICA specifically, and they feel very comfortable, right, that they have gotten that support. So I agree with you. I'm not a RICA fan, but I also think in specific instances, having it extended to be an additional option for those who have been preparing for it for 2 years to give them that option to be comfortable. Thank you.
Commissioner Francois?
Actually could,
Right. Yeah, and I was going to actually turn it back to you, David, to clarify what the Ed Code says about the dates, because the dates are very explicit in the Ed Code about July 1st of 2024. Do you want to just go back over that around?
So July 21, 2024, so that was part of the last item, is when all programs must implement the new literacy standards and TPEs. So one of the things we specifically did is we're actually ahead of schedule because there was one set of requirements that needed to be in our program standards and TPEs by September 1, 2022, and another set by September 1, 2024. And when we looked at that, we said programs need longer to see these and implement them. So we got everything into the literacy standards and TPEs that you approved last October and last February. So programs are already going to be implementing, and as we heard from Student Liaison Tran, some are already doing all of this before we even changed our standards and TPEs. So programs are going to be implementing these by July 1, 2024. So, I understand that the concern is then candidates who are completing a 2-year program and who start as of this July and would be completing them by July or June of 2025. We really think that programs are going to have the information they need to pass that performance assessment embedded in their programs. And as our performance assessment team has explained, a number of commission meetings and every opportunity they have when they're working with programs, TPA is not supposed to be done by yourself. It is kind of like an open book exam. You can use all of the resources from your courses. You can bounce ideas off of your friends, your colleagues in class. So it is really supposed to be a very supported experience. We know that is not everyone's experience with the TPA. We continue to work on that. And that's probably something, as we're working on this transition, that we really need to focus more on, is making sure that all programs understand the support that they can provide, the support that they should provide, and, you know, the feedback about making sure candidates explicitly know where they can go for assistance and support. We can look at how we can support programs, all programs, in doing that.
Thank you for the clarification. Commissioner Francois?
Thank you. I share the CTA's concern about making sure that the new literacy performance assessment, you know, considering the impact it will have on BIPOC students. I share that concern. I also share Commissioner De La Torre's comment that the RICA didn't do us any favors either. I wrote that down because I think that is just a very simple way to say, we've got to figure out how any of the assessments and activities that we roll out that are mandated and affects a student's entry into the profession disproportionately affects BIPOC students. And having said that, I think it's a good reminder for the staff that as we continue to build this new assessment, that we always put how implicit bias shows up in scoring at the front of it, and then what do we need to do in order to mitigate that. And I think that we talked a little bit about that earlier this morning, and I just want to put it back on the table. The other thing I want to share is kind of a general comment, because whenever we have conversations about TPAs and assessments, RICAs and things like that, it feels to me sometimes like there's an undercurrent that teacher preparation is about preparing students to be successful on assessments. That's not what teacher preparation does. Teacher preparation is about engaging young people in a cycle of inquiry and professional learning that helps them to be successful on assessment. And when we reverse that, then we reduce teacher preparation, to teacher preparation to preparation for an assessment. And I really want us to be careful about that narrative, because teacher preparation is so much more than that. And the kind of performance assessments that we have adopted over the last several years really mirrors the kind of performance assessments that teacher preparation has been asking its candidates to complete since I've been a teacher ed. And I won't tell you how long that's been, but it's been a long time. And so I just wanted to put that out there, because I'm always troubled by these conversations. And I don't want us ever to think that teacher preparation is test preparation. Thank you.
Chair Green-O'Shire.
Commissioner Francois, thank you for that important reminder about the work that we really are about in preparing future educators. I wanted to, if we're going to wrap up this agenda item, to ask commission staff to come back in August with some ideas about how to support candidates during this transition. I've heard that throughout the conversation this morning, so if I could ask staff to do that, I am asking staff to do that. Thank you. I can, and I did.
And just to piggyback on what Commissioner Francois said, we've been talking about dyslexia and the dyslexia guidelines. And I think that there's also students or potential candidates with disabilities like dyslexia, and that this is also, I think, making more options for those candidates who I think have really had significant challenges with all of the assessments and becoming educators, and can be and are, uniquely qualified to teach. And so those flexibilities, I think, for that population are important too. This is an action item. Are there any other questions, comments, motions? Commissioner De La Torre?
I had a question to what the recommended.
What is the motion that we're looking
Yes.
for? Is that, I think, so the motion Let's see, let me get back to my item. I think we were looking for approval, and if perhaps Mr. DeGarry.
Approval of the RICA transition plan as
It's on
presented in the item.
page, looks like 2B4. There's a staff recommendation. It's a lengthy staff recommendation, so I won't read.
Oh, then that's my motion.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve the staff recommendation that is on page EPC 2B4.
Yes.
All right, so we have a motion from Commissioner DeGarry. Are there a second? Commissioner, oh,
I'll second.
thank you. We have a second from Commissioner Davis. Are there any other questions or comments?
I have a question.
Yes.
Is this also to add about bring back recommendations in August as well? Will that be included?
You know, I wouldn't add it to the motion. We typically ask staff to do this as a request. I don't think it needs to be part of the motion, though.
Any other questions or comments? All right, well, the recording secretary, please call for the vote.
Danette Brown, Christopher Davis,
Aye.
Michael De La Torre,
Aye.
Makita Shire,
Aye.
Megan Gross,
Aye.
Johanna Howard,
Aye.
Susan Aradia,
Aye.
Bonnie Clark,
Aye.
Ira Litt,
Aye.
Monica Martinez,
Aye. Aye, sorry.
David Simmons.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, thank you, Ms. Purdue, and I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong page. You're not Ms. Purdue anymore. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. DeGarry. Sorry, again, vacation brain. And I've been told we can take a brief break, 5 minutes, but it's 10:59, so we'll say 11:05. I'll give you an extra minute there. So we will pause for a break and reconvene at 11:05. All right, thank you. We have a very heavy agenda in closed session, so we will try to move ourselves right along. So thank you for being back almost on time for your break. Close enough. We'll call it close enough. All right, so we have one last item for today. It's item 2 for today. I thought we only had. Okay, I think one more. I think 2C. I'm getting the thumbs up from Hanju. Oh, the nomination. Okay, so I have one more item. Okay, all right. Wait, so that's all that, right? That's all I'm thinking about. So my last item for today is item 2C, the proposed adoption of a revised passing standard for the special education for California edTPA performance assessment. This item is being presented by David DeGarry. We also have Nicole Marino from Stanford Center for Assessment, Learning, and Equity, and Lori Kroger from Evaluation Systems Group of Pearson, Inc. on the Zoom. This is an action item. Mr. DeGarry, will you please begin?
Good morning again, Commissioners. Nicole Marino from Scale is not able to join us, but Lori Kroger is here in person. This item presents for review and potential adoption a revised passing standard for the special education for California edTPA performance assessment for mild to moderate support needs and extensive support needs candidates. This item also provides information about the standard setting process used to determine the recommendation. In August 2022, the Commission heard an update on the development of the education specialist versions of the edTPA and the Fresno Assessment of Student Teaching, or FAST, performance assessments, and separate analyses regarding a content review and a review for compliance with the Commission's adopted assessment design standards. The Commission approved 3 assessments for education specialist credential candidates, the CalTPA, the edTPA, and FAST, as having met the content requirements and performance assessment design standards, and directed the assessment sponsors to conduct standard setting studies. At its October 2022 meeting, the Commission adopted an initial passing standard for the Education Specialist California edTPA of 40, with the application of a -2.0 standard error of measurement, making the actual initial passing score 37. Because of the low number of portfolios included in the original standard setting, the commission directed the assessment sponsor to collect additional data during the first year of implementation, hold a new standard setting study in spring 2023, and submit a revised recommended passing score to the commission staff in time to present for the commission for action during this June 2023 meeting. The commission also retained the option of adjusting the passing score for the first operational year if the new standard setting study and impact data indicated a need. During the 2023 academic year, Stanford University and the Evaluation Systems Group of Pearson collected additional data on scores of education specialist credentialed teacher candidates who completed the Special Education for California edTPA. These data were brought to a standard setting event on April 26, 2023. The item describes the briefing book method used during the standard setting event, and the process mirrored that used for the original standard setting last fall. This item also presents descriptive and summary data regarding actual consequential portfolios scored in the two education specialist credential areas of MMSN and ESN, which can be found in Appendix C. Demographics and total score descriptive performance statistics were provided by gender and ethnicity. And finally, a distribution of total scores was provided for the data set. Panelists were also provided with impact data regarding the passing rate that would have been observed based on the range of possible cut scores to help inform their final recommendation. The impact data was disaggregated by credential area, by gender, and by ethnicity. See Appendix D for those. The final cut score or passing standard recommended by the panel was the median score of 39, so one less than the original passing standard. After reviewing the data and the panel's recommendation, staff agreed with the recommended passing standard and believed that a standard error of measure should be applied to this cut score. The table on the top of page 5 identifies the calculated cut scores if a standard error of measurement from -0.5 to -2.0 is applied. To follow the Commission's recent past practices, staff recommends that the Commission adopt the passing standard of 39 recommended by the panel of California content experts with the application of a -2.0 standard error of measurement. This would bring the actual passing score to 35. If the Commission adopts the recommended passing standard, notification will be posted on the Evaluation Systems Group of Pearson's examination website and will be communicated to the field. And Lori and I are available to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. We will now open for public comment. If there are members of the public that would like to give a presentation, please notify the meeting moderator by submitting a request card or clicking on the raised hand icon if participating through Zoom, or pressing *9 if participating by phone. Recording secretary, are there any public comments?
We have no public comments on this item.
Okay, thank you. We'll give just a short moment. All right. The public comment period for this item is now closed. Do commissioners have any questions or comments on this item? Commissioner De La Torre.
I just want to thank you for the tables and the data. I really enjoyed seeing this. And if you could just give me a little more feedback about what this actually means, because it looks to me like all the subgroups did very well. So that's what it looks like to me.
Yeah, that's what we're seeing as well.
Yeah.
And there actually kind of was a nice natural break in the scores.
Mm-hmm.
So with that standard error of measure applied at 2.0 at 35, I mean, that's where clear break in the scores were.
Mm-hmm.
So that indicates that we really think that that's an appropriate place for that standard to be.
So as a statistician, it's really nice to see it, that it fits and it looks good.
Right?
So it makes me I'm really giddy inside with little butterflies. So
right.
Thank you.
And will those butterflies lift you up? Was that a motion that I?
Oh,
heard?
yes.
Those-
So that is the motion. Let me find it. But I love the graphs. I love that, the histogram. I love it all. So, and the motion is on page.
It is to adopt the proposed recommended revising passing standard of 39 with a negative 2.0 standard error of measurement.
Is so moved.
So we have a motion from Commissioner De La Torre. Oh, Commissioner Davis?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Davis. Is there any other discussion, questions? Are there any questions, I should say? Oh, yes, Commissioner Gross?
I just wanted to thank staff. Table 4, I feel like has really expanded our demographics that we're looking at. And I know that that's been something we've talked about for the past couple of years. And so I really appreciated seeing that. And it's so exciting to see that this new performance assessment is really doing what we hoped it would do, right? In terms of providing access to all candidates to demonstrate their knowledge. So I just wanted to thank you for the information. And I wanted to give a shout out to our design teams because maybe they got something right. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? I see some people that look like they're still reading, absorbing, so I don't want to rush anything. Anyone? All right. Then will the recording secretary please call for the vote?
Donette Brown,
Aye.
Jose Cardenas,
Aye.
Juan Cruz,
Aye.
Christopher Davis,
Aye.
Michael De La Torre,
Aye.
Makita Quinoshire,
Aye.
Megan Gross,
Aye.
Johanna Harwick,
Aye.
Susan Aradia, Bonnie Clark,
Aye.
Ira Litt,
Aye.
Monica Martinez,
Aye.
David Simmons.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right. Thank you, Mr. DeGear and Ms. No, not Marino, Ms. Kroger. Okay. Thank you very much. Having no additional items for today, I recess the Educator Preparation Committee until tomorrow.
Thank you, Commissioner Klatt. I'm sorry we were conferring on the agenda because we have proceeded with such haste this morning. Thoughtful haste that we find ourselves. I'm going to reconvene the general session now. Thank you for a great conversation. I'd like to reconvene the general session and move to agenda item 1H, nomination and election for Chair Pro Tem. I don't know how to pronounce Tempore. Is it Latin? Tempore for the June 15th, 16th, 2023 Commission meeting. Section 311 of the Commission's policy manual allows for the election of a chair pro tempore to serve as the presiding officer in the absence of the chair and vice chair. Commissioner De La Torre, Escobedo, and I are unable to attend the meeting tomorrow on Friday, June 15th. So we will need to elect a chair pro tempore to preside over the meeting in our absence. We will now open for public comment. Recording Secretary, are there any public comments?
We have no public comments.
Thank you. The public comment period for this item is now closed. Are there any nominations for Chair Pro Tempore?
Nomination of Commissioner Simmons.
Hey, for Zoom, we can't hear.
excuse me. Do I have a motion to elect Commissioner Simmons as Chair Pro Tem for the June 15, 16 Commission meeting? I have a motion by Commissioner Davis. I have a second by Commissioner Brown. Will the recording secretary call for the vote, please?
They nominate, they also need they also made a motion to elect. Earlier it was just nomination.
Oh,
I think I asked for a motion.
I'll do a motion. I'll do a motion to elect.
Okay, so I have a motion by Commissioner Electory to elect. I thought we just did this. Do I have a second? Okay, Commissioner Heredia. So now, can we go ahead and vote?
Danielle Brown. Aye. Jose Cardenas.
Aye.
Juan Cruz.
Aye.
Christopher Davis.
Aye.
Michael De La Torre.
Aye.
Makita Shire.
Aye.
Macon Gross.
Aye.
Johanna Howick.
Aye.
Susan Aradia.
Aye.
Bonnie Clark.
Aye.
Ira Lit.
Aye.
Monica Martinez.
Aye.
David Simmons.
Abstain.
Motion carries.
I whispered to Commissioner Simmons if he would accept, and he said he did. So thank you, Commissioner Simmons, for serving in this role in my absence and Marisol's absence. We appreciate your support. So now I will recess the general session. Members of the commission will go into closed session. The general session will reconvene at 8:30 tomorrow morning. Thank you. Commissioners, please stay where you are.
We need to let commissioners on the Zoom know when we come back for closed session.
Nobody here. Avoid the rush.
So, commissioners, we have a long time for lunch. We will convene at 12:30 because we have hearings, we have appearances, etc. We've alerted the Vanessa and her staff. So 12:30, enjoyed the longest lunch I think we've ever taken. And earliest, come back at 12:30, ready to go. Thank you.
So, Madam Chair, can you hear me?
I can hear you. I don't know if they can.
I probably can't.
I don't know. Marquita's looking at you.
I can hear you, Commissioner Cruz and Martinez.
Okay. I just wanted to note that I have a hard stop at 1:30. I have promotions at 2, 4, and 6 today. That's why I'm
okay.
So I'll stay on for closed session as much as I can. I think the items that were pulled will be heard tomorrow. I have one promotion in the morning and then one midday. So I'll try to make sure there for that one that I pulled at least.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioner Martinez? Oh, she said goodbye. Okay. All right. Thank you. See you at 12:30, everyone.